You got this clip from Andrew Shultz. Anomaly tweets, Andrew Shultz realizes Ben Shapiro is only good at debating college liberals and can't win debates against serious competition. I will play the clip for you now, and you can hear what he had to say.
Candace, she's not afraid of nobody. She will say whatever the fuck she wants to say. She will debate any single person. She'll go out there and do it, right? Ben Shapiro is debating college kids.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest, right? It's like anytime he debates somebody who's like worthy, he either gets washed or bare minimum stalemate. I've never seen him actually win a debate against somebody who's like educated in the matter.
So in response to this, Candace Owens says, I would like to debate Ben Shapiro on Israel and the current definition of anti-Semitism. Can somebody make that happen? To which Ben Shapiro responded, sure, Candace, I texted you on February 29th offering this very thing. Let's do it on my show this Monday at 5 p.m. at our studios in Nashville. 90 minutes live streamed. I believe Ben went on to say, I am now signing off. Oh, okay. There's a little bit more in the drama before we get into it. Candace says, I'm sure you can appreciate why I prefer to keep this off the Daily Wire platform, as well as the true reason why we were never able to make any discussion happen. Let's choose a neutral, trustworthy platform. I vote Patrick Bet David. To which Ben Shapiro responds, Candace, I can see why you'd want to hide behind a moderator, particularly one who said we should rename our company the Daily Jewish Wire just yesterday. No. One-on-one, Monday at 5 p.m. We can sit down and have a healthy debate like adults, and we'll live stream it on X and YouTube. Take it or leave it. As to the true reason you didn't respond to my offer to sit with you and discuss these issues publicly or privately back in February, I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. He then said, I am now signing off for Shabbat. I plan to be in Nashville for this conversation on Monday. So this all starts with, of course, Andrew Shultz saying Ben Shapiro can't debate. I don't agree with Shultz on this one. I think he's isolated. There's copious amounts of Ben Shapiro, dishing it out to college liberals who ask him these questions. But also Ben Shapiro has sat down for numerous discussions. He does the Sunday special. He has conversations and debates with tons of people all the time. I'm not saying he's the greatest debater in the world, but the idea that he's only ever successful against college liberals, I disagree with. But I don't know what if you guys want to jump in and we'll just.
I think he would do great in the debate on Israel because he's right. I think that would help him enormously, is that his position on it is the right position.
Well, what is that position?
That the war in Gaza is a just war, that the only moral outcome of the war is, and I'm going to use this word deliberately, is the extermination of Hamas, and that those who are calling for ceasefires, those who are blaming, like these aid workers, is Israel. Did they make a mistake? Are they responsible for that mistake? Yes. But are they morally responsible? No. Hamas is morally responsible because they started the war. So that gives, in my opinion, he's correct on the debate, and I don't see how someone can morally say that what Israel is doing is wrong, because what they're doing needs to be done, or more people are going to die in the future.
How did the World Central Kitchen thing happen? How do you accidentally target 3 separate vehicles in different areas and kill a bunch of aid workers?
I don't know. But if you start a war, which is what Hamas did, innocent people are going to die. I don't think for a second that Israel targeted innocent people. Number one, why would they? What's the only thing it could do is hurt them, which of course it has.
Well, they did target innocent people. The question is,
deliberately.
Right? Was it an accident or otherwise?
I think obviously it was an accident. What's the upside to killing innocent people deliberately? There's no upside.
The aid workers, the upside is they don't get the food and water to the people they're trying to exterminate.
But if they kill those people, there's all kinds of stuff going in there to help the people in Gaza, to help the civilians, we hope. So knocking out 12 aid workers is not going to make a huge difference in what's going in there. All it's going to do is what's happened to Israel, what we all know was going to happen to Israel, which is Biden turned against them and public opinion turned against them. There's no upside to killing those aid workers.
One of the thoughts I had while you were explaining that is that because Hamas started the war, Israel has the right to kill civilians.
No, I didn't say that.
It's not their fault. Their hand was forced. So I disagree, because if a country were to invade my borders and start a war, and then I go total war on them and start bombing their cities and killing them, I don't have the right to blame them for me killing all those civilians. I made that choice.
Israel has a moral obligation to exterminate Hamas. They have to do it, and that's going to save lives. It's like dropping bombs on Japan. atomic bombs in Japan. That was a moral thing to do. It ended the war and it saved lives. And if you let Hamas go on, especially after what happened October 7th, you're going to see a lot more civilians. It's going to be like Iraq and Afghanistan, 20 years of hell. Civilians, this immoral, moral war that you let go on for decades and decades.
So
my concern
couldn't they go to where's the leadership, the Hamas leadership currently at? Aren't they in like Qatar?
A bunch of them are in Qatar, yeah.
Yeah. So why doesn't the U.S. and Israel just actually go and put them in cuffs?
I don't think it's that easy. I mean, if they hide among civilians, plus you got to get.
Oh, they're
rid-
not. They're like, I'm pretty sure these are public facing people who like one guy went on TV.
Plus, you have to take away their ability to wage war again, and that's what they're doing going into Gaza, because it's not. We don't have hospitals. We have hospitals built on top of weaponry. That's the stuff you have to get rid of. It's like the Nazis. You have to not only get rid of Hitler, you have to get rid of Nazis, you have to get rid of Nazism. You have to take away their ability to ever wage war again. That's the only moral outcome.
I thought that too, that it is important to remove the Nazism from the Nazis, so you have normal people again, basically.
Right.
So killing the individuals isn't always the way to get rid of an ideology. And my concern with trying to eradicate Hamas is the blowback. They're killing a lot of innocent people that will then grow up to become even worse terrorizers of the system than the current ones, is my fear. And then that would leave Israel no more justification other than to say we need to eradicate everyone there, because otherwise it will never stop. And that's like the slippery slope I see in the future. I want to avoid.
Well, I think he's underselling it, because it's not only that they start this war, but they started the war and then refused to fight it. They attacked and then hit among the civilian population. And as far as the blowback, if this organization that is the leadership already says, we're committed to wiping you off the face of the earth, like the idea that like, oh, well, just imagine what happens if you make them angry. That's already their mission now. They're already at the end point. So yeah, you do have a problem, but the fact is, right now they control the education system. Right now they're breeding or trying to raise these kids into the next generation of soldiers to fight the Israelis. So like you have to get rid of that. And like, you know, the Nazi example, we did do policies of like denazification. You had to take that stuff out of the education stuff. A lot of stuff that we would consider very like anti-American was done in Europe, where they banned being in Nazi parties and denying the Holocaust and all of that, because that's how extreme the that rooted ideology was in Europe. So it's a similar kind of thing. Like, but again, it's not that they just started the war; it's that they didn't fight it. They were like, okay, we attacked. Now we're going to hide and then wait for the media to say, look at how bad you are at finding us.
And the other point I would make is that we've tried it your way. Israel's tried it your way for decades, and they got October 7th. So that way doesn't work, because you cannot do business with savages. And that's what Hamas is. I'm not talking about Gazans. I'm not talking about Arabs. Hamas is savages, and they need to be exterminated, because if you don't exterminate them, it's going to happen again.
So you're saying the two-party solution? Was that when you said the vision I'm looking for? Is that like a two-party solution?
No,
is that what
when
you're
you
implying?
say
Like the two-state solution.
Two-state solution.
no,
That's
not
what
the
I mean,
two-state solution, but the idea that, we got to back off or do a ceasefire, or worrying about, or what you said about worrying about it creating hate. Israel has done everything. They removed themselves from Gaza in 2005. They gave the Gazans incredible land that they could have turned into another Miami.
That was part of the plan. That was part of like the Jared Kushner concept.
And what did they do? So they tried to do what you're suggesting, and what they got was October 7th.
But if they were given the opportunity to build a great city, but then they were under a blockade, like walled in and under a blockade.
They got billions of dollars. I mean, compared to them, the Gazans per capita get more money than Americans do, more money than any other aid people in the world.
But they were being blockaded.
I don't know exactly what was being blockaded, but they were able to build an awful lot of stuff there, including incredible tunnels. And if they can build a tunnel, why can't they build a resort?
Hamas posted the video of turning water pipes into rockets.
Yeah, they did.
Whether they actually were doing that or it was propaganda, that was their propaganda. Where they were like, look at these water pipes they gave us.
In that situation, you know, you have no money. If you feel like you're being annihilated, you just use your basic weapons. You know, whatever.
No one was annihilated. No one's in there. No one's bothering them. If Gaza and Hamas disarmed tomorrow, there would be peace. If Israel disarmed tomorrow, Gaza would exterminate them within 2 weeks.
What if everybody was armed?
I'm seeing that the UN spent $600 million on Gaza in 2020.
How much? 600 million?
600 million in
This
just
is-
in 2020 alone, and gave 4.5 billion between 2014 and 2020.
I've asked a lot of people about
And that's just the UN.
like what would happen, and usually when I ask like what would happen if like Hamas surrendered, and they'd be like the war's over, and I'd be like, and then what? Like and Gaza goes on as it is, and I'm like with the walls and everything, like yeah, of course, and then whatever, they can do whatever they want. And then I said, okay, what would happen if Israel said we're tearing the walls down, Palestinians have free reign to move in and around Israel, you're now all welcome? And I've never gotten a straight answer, because I think even the people who are critical of Israel, or even, as I would call it, Israel deranged, understand what happens if Israel takes the walls down and says, all of Gaza, please feel free to, you get October 7th.
Yeah.
There were a lot of the, like, I remember the October 7th, there were a lot of the workers who had passes to work in Israel were among those who were committing the atrocities on that day. So they had, already had access to Israel, and they were coming in to do that. It's kind of crazy.
I don't think that this, whatever this is, there's no easy answer. My position is typically the America First one of just like, oh, I don't know about the moral questions here, man. I don't know why we're involved. And I know, I understand Ben Shapiro's argument about a U.S. ally in the region, the risks of rapid escalation if Israel goes, what do they call it, the Samson option, and how the U.S. needs to have a strong presence in controlling things to prevent the expansion into a massive World War III. And I'm just like, I understand that. My view more so is the U.S. is driving itself into World War III in a variety of different areas, particularly with Ukraine. I don't see how our involvement is improving anything.
You're concerned about Ukraine, I share completely. But the Hamas's charter is wipe out Israel and then wipe out all the Jews, including American
they
Jews.
did change it. They took that part about wiping out the Jews
Just recently.
Just recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I believe them. Well, I feel better then.
And this is the crazy thing. It's I believe it's in the Hadith that it's what's that the line says, the tree says there's a Jew hiding behind me or something. And that was in the Hamas charter only until recently. So my point is
feel better.
Yeah, right, exactly. I don't believe it.
It was a PR move.
Right.
It was a PR move, and I'm not accusing you of this, but it was a PR move so that someone could make the argument you just made. Why are we there? Why are we helping them? They're very good at PR.
And people have made that argument to me. They're like, no, that's not in the charter anymore. And I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, come on.
So what I've heard is that the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, which was Yasser Arafat's Palestinian government in the late 1900s or 1990s, up to relatively recently, that I heard that the Israelis were involved with breaking them apart because they controlled the West Bank and Gaza, and it made it look like they're really going to get a two-state solution. We don't want that. We want the territory. So let's create a new government. We'll call it Hamas that can rule over in Gaza while the PLO can have the West Bank. Now we have two disparate factions fighting each other, easy pickings, and they're villains, so that when they attack us, we can use it as a false flag.
It's if someone stole my land, right? If someone came in and wiped out my family and stole my land, I would not sentence my descendants to generations of hate and despair and poverty. You move on.
In fact, most places in the world have done that.
That's exactly right. You move on, but what they have done, what the Hamas has done to the Gazans, and what Arafat did was sentence these people, innocent people, to generations of poverty and hate and vengeance, and he destroyed their lives, and Hamas is destroying their lives. And it doesn't matter what happened in the past, just move on.
But what about, I figured it out.
Right of return.
Casinos in the Gaza Strip.
They can't gamble.
What about
I know.
What about right
I'm
of
kidding.
right of
My point is, I talk about this because Native Americans, for instance,
That's
in
right.
the United States, they're never going to reconquer the United States. They've won lawsuits. That's what you do. They've set up casinos. It was masterful. I was reading about, I believe, a Hard Rock Seminole, what started the wave of Indian casinos. It was in the 70s. They had a bingo hall. The state said gambling's illegal. You can't do this. They said, you don't regulate us. We're federal under the treaties. Federal government said, you're damn right. We have jurisdiction here, because the federal government's not going to give up jurisdiction if they can keep it. And they said, no. They're right. So they answered to us. And the Native Americans were like, we got a good deal for the federal government, tax money. And then they were like, let's roll. And then Indian casinos popped up all over the place. And now you've got these extremely wealthy tribes that have found a way to succeed through the history that has been bad.
And I have no, if anyone who looks at the history of what happened to the American Indian in this country, it's indefensible. And I have nothing but sympathy and empathy for that. a lot more than I have
Well-
for what's happening in Israel. And I agree with you 100%.
Well,
that
I'm
they
not-
have arisen above it.
On the Native American thing, I think it's important to question. It wasn't a monolith. What happened to Native Americans wasn't like. I wouldn't say European colonists arriving in the into North America is 100% the cause of all strife and all calamity for all Native
Yeah, I
Americans.
agree, yeah.
So I wouldn't necessarily say it's indefensible. I'm like, certainly there are many instances where, Native Americans went and killed a bunch of colonists for no reason and things like that had happened.
It was inevitable and indefensible. That's the way I would put it. It was a shame.
I think there were things that were bad, like the Trail of Tears and things like that are
Definitely.
indefensible. And this is war. This is the history of humanity has been conquest. I think through moral philosophy, but mostly through abundance. Through technological advancement, we've come to the point where we're like, okay, now we don't really need to be stealing land from each other because we're all pretty much too fat as it is. Not everyone in the world, but particularly in the United States and in the developed world, we got so much resources that these things are starting to chill out.
Well, obesity is now a condition of poverty.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So look, we see this in the animal kingdom. Predators that are well fed don't bother killing prey. It's a risk. So if you've got, a lion that's going to go fight a gazelle or something, there is a risk of death in doing that, but it needs to survive. When you take these animals and put them in captivity and keep them well fed, there still is instinct, so it does happen. But you'll see these videos where it's like a lion like sitting and snuggling with a chicken or something because there's no reason to fight.
He's not hungry.
So that's where we are going. And I like these things. Now we're looking at other parts of the world that ideologically are driven towards fighting for, look, honor, I guess. Like that is our land. Our family was there 100 years ago. So we're going to just fight forever. And it's a tough question because I believe honor does matter. I mean, we're facing an invasion on our southern border. You've got the black community in Chicago screaming that they're being replaced. Did you hear this?
Yeah.
The black community has some kind of replacement theory that they believe is happening. Isn't
that racist? I've been told that's racist.
Well,
turns out it's just great.
Not when they say it.
Well, that's what they've been saying.
Replacement
And
theory.
obviously I'm being a little facetious, but the black community in Chicago has actually gone to meetings yelling, "You're replacing us," because they're bringing these people in. I think it's fair to be like, hey, we have morals, we have traditions, we have values we don't want to lose, so we should control immigration. But there's a question of, do you leave New York? Do you leave Chicago? Do you leave California? Find a better life. I think there is a good argument for find where you can thrive, make money, have a family, and then win financially, and let the people who have the bad ideas fail, and then over time you end up winning. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.